today we have a real treat for you. We have my wife, Rory Earley, on the call.
There were some really hard times. Like, I remember you saying, like, I just wish the phone would ring, and the phone's not ringing. The phone's not ringing.
Okay, fine. You want it? Here you go. What keeps you up at night?
The Earley Show will begin after a brief word from today's sponsor, Answering Legal. Visit answeringlegal.com to learn more about our 24/7 virtual receptionist team.
Answering Legal helps my practice by allowing me to never miss a call, and all of my clients and potential clients, when they call, they always reach a live person. The office doesn't miss any calls anymore. We get text messages. Somebody is available 24/7. Clients can call and reach a live person at any time. I absolutely would recommend Answering Legal to other attorneys in our area. It allows attorneys to have a little more freedom. Answering Legal allows me to get more work done.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Earley Show podcast, sponsored by our friends over at Answering Legal. My name is Chris Earley. I'm a personal injury attorney in Boston. I love talking about all things related to growing and scaling a personal injury law firm. And as you know, on the show, from time to time, we like to mix things up. We like to keep it interesting. And today we have a real treat for you. We have my wife, Rory Earley, on the call. Rory has been through a lot with me. She'll tell you, I'm sure. So I'm really excited to talk with her and just get into it with her. And I'm really excited. Rory, thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So I know you pretty well, but for anyone who doesn't, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Rory. I'm married to Chris. I'm the wind beneath his wings. I made him the man who he is today. I am a mom of 2 kids, Ollie and Alice, and I mostly stay home with them. And I do a ton of volunteering work around our town, work with a lot of senior citizens in our area, and work in some hospice settings with end-of-life care. So that's sort of my passion. But mostly you find me on a baseball field cheering on my son, Ollie, who's a catcher.
A lot of baseball, a lot of sports.
Yes.
So I wanted to have Rory on because Rory is not an attorney, but that's what I like, is that we can sort of have a different discussion today about what it's like to be married to an attorney who's scaling and growing a practice, the sacrifices the partner makes, right, in furtherance of that business growing, the challenges that come with that. You know, Rory has been with me since the beginning of the business. That's when we met in 2008. I think the business was a year and a half old at that point. So going back in time, right, we met and then, moved in with each other. What do you remember about my business, my practice at that point?
We're being honest here.
100%.
So, well, interestingly enough, when I met you, we met out at a bar and you told me that you lived in a penthouse in Beacon Hill. And I immediately was like, ooh. And he had the worst 5-floor walk-up ever. And his office was in this dark corner of a, really packed office. The hallways were filled with storage boxes, and it was just not remotely glamorous. It was really like
it was adjacent to a bathroom.
And I remember in one instance, I think during a quarrel, I called it a rinky-dink law firm. And to this day, I still sometimes pull that word out. But we were young. I was 29, you were 30. And you exuded professionalism with everything you did, even though it was on a very small scale at that same time. I remember you would wear a long trench coat and you had a leather attaché and you wore a scally cap and, and you were definitely dressing for the part and definitely trying to be as professional as you could be. And that was the beginning. And then as we moved in together and I learned more details about how the business works, there were some really hard times. Like I remember you saying, like, I just wish the phone would ring, and the phone's not ringing, the phone's not ringing. Or something would happen, like you would lose a case, or someone would leave you to go to another lawyer to poach a case, and it would be the end of the world.
Yep.
And certainly you've talked about your sort of change with meditating and how you changed yourself. But in those days, even before Oliver was born, if something bad happened, it would be the end of the world. And it would be Armageddon. Everything was bad. And I was just there hoping that this would pass. And it always did, of course. But I think that you said this to me before, remained sort of a positive force in your life to try to get you out of those deep, dark places when you were so upset or like even worried about things that didn't happen, like worried about like a BBO complaint. Is it BBO?
Totally.
I kind of feel like I could be a practicing attorney with all that I've learned.
You do better than I would. I'm telling you that.
Yes, definitely. I mean, our kids like to point out that I do have more degrees than you, more graduate degrees than you. So I am slightly smarter. But anyway.
Indeed.
So I feel like I'm veering off topic here, but in the beginning things are really small and small problems were huge giant mountains to you. And now we look back how many years later, 15 years later, whatever, and say like, oh, we wish we had those problems now. I mean, that's life. But I think when we were discussing the other night when we first met, you had like, I thought it was $8,000 or $9,000 a month in expenses. And I remember saying to my mom, like, he has $9,000 a month in expenses, which is like what you pay for merch in 1 month or whatever. You know, it's just interesting to look back. But as I say to you all the time, even now when we have big problems or small problems that feel big, like, or you feel like you're not growing fast enough or whatever, I always point out, like, look where we were. Like, you have to look back to see how far you've come. Because that's important.
It's essential. So we're sort of in that time period. We don't have any kids yet.
Right.
Business is just, and you would say to me, like, go ahead and network, like go network.
Oh, I was a big fan of that.
But I thought I didn't have to. I thought the work would just come I was advertising the yellow pages and on Craigslist.
Craigslist was like the hot thing.
Yeah.
Remember when we flyered parking lots?
We'd put flyers in a car parking lot. I was so misguided in my marketing efforts that I flyered this affluent area of Boston. It's called the Back Bay. I put flyers on doors. One person sent me a letter, anonymous, and just said very, mean things. And I was like, what am I doing?
But we also did the Target parking lot, and people would come out of Target, rip it off, and throw it on the ground.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you'd flyer a parking lot. This is 2008, 2009. You flyer a parking lot, come back half an hour later, half of them, are like you said, on the ground. But we always, you're always on board with the entrepreneurial, my entrepreneurial bug or this, sort of drive. And so for the younger lawyers on this call, I encourage you to network. I encourage you to get out of your office, get away from your computer screen as much as possible, and go to bar organizations, go to conferences, meet lawyers. Because looking back, I wish I did that when Rory suggested. I guess I wasn't ready.
You definitely did not do that.
I wasn't ready, but now, hair's on fire, multiple things each day on that front, right? Networking, growing. But sometimes it takes us a little bit longer, to get there. To
listen to your wife.
Yeah. But, when you have a partner, so for example, just fast forwarding for a second here in time, I came home from the office one day. I said, hey, listen, I'm thinking about doing a coaching call with an attorney. It's $5,000 for the call. You didn't flinch. You said, do it. I said, really? So that is a demonstration of Rory's support. If I said the call was $10,000, you would have said, do it. So when your partner is all in, you can grow so much. If you have a partner, right, and they are not with you in terms of where you're trying to get to, it's going to be a hard slog. It's going to be tough sledding. When you have a drive and you have someone who supports that drive and is all in on you, like Rory is with me, like really good things happen. So I hope you're as fortunate as me to have someone, in your corner, ride or die, who's with you, right? And Rory was with me through dark times, through challenging times. Rory and I were united by a lot of common things growing up in similar environments. Mine, was different than Rory's, but no better, no worse. But we understand challenge at a young age, like significant challenge. And Rory, you were saying before how I would sort of catastrophize everything. Well, that was a product of an unstable rather childhood that my audience has heard me talk on and on. I don't know to get into that right now, but you and I really caught fire and found strong common ground on that because we think a lot alike.
Right.
You're not the catastrophist I am, but we have a lot of similar traits, good and bad, but there's so much common ground that I think there's been great unity in where we're driving this bus together.
And we're both very hard workers.
Yeah.
We're sort of like hustlers. Like we just really we go after it. And so we see eye to eye on that. But yeah, I mean, without getting sappy, I believe in your path and your plan, and I fully trust you. And I know that you would never put our family at risk financially. So if you say this $10,000 item is really going to change, the game, I'm like, all right, cool. But then don't be fooled. I am definitely going to be spending a little bit more on the credit cards that weekend to, compensate for those
of course
expenses.
Of course. So yeah, that expense got more expensive, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I would encourage, the listener, as Rory and I, we share our things. So Rory and I, we're in our mid 40s, right? So if you're a younger lawyer, I really truly hope you're taking notes because Rory and I have learned things along the way that hopefully you can avoid, some of those.
Took the hard road. I mean,
the hard road.
We're not experts. We just stumbled upon some things.
And that's how you learn. And I think you and I, there's a lot of confidence. You have to be confident.
Definitely.
Especially for someone who's starting and running a law firm, right? Because that's what a lot of listeners on this call are, Rory, right? They're all in. They're taking bets on themselves. And this is very expensive. It's not for the faint of heart. But I do believe, and I know you subscribe to this, if you do the work every day, you put your nose down, you grind, things break, opportunities happen, things arise, right? When things pop, you take a step forward. I feel like the business was doing good. And then tell the audience about when our son Oliver was born. What was the business like at that point? What do you remember from 2012?
You're saying you think the business was good at that point?
Well, no, I think it was getting better, but it wasn't. I remember.
No, it was Alice. It was when Alice was born.
Alice took it. Our daughter was born 3.5 years later. When my son was born, you were still,
I was working.
You had to work at that. You don't work now. Thankfully, you devote so much of your time and effort.
Oh, I work. No, okay.
You volunteer like nobody's business.
No, but I mean, I'm a working mom from home. I do a lot for the family. I do a lot for your business.
Oh, no question.
I'm a PhD counselor in mental health for you.
It's not easy. It's not easy.
No, I'm just saying I think that being a stay-at-home mom is very hard as well. So there's a lot.
Oh, it's harder. No question.
My background is in the public sector, and but then I became a postpartum doula, and I still sort of dabble in that here and there because I really love it. So I was working in the city. I had a postpartum doula practice, which, if you don't know what a doula is, it's working with families when they come home from the hospital with a new baby and sort of supporting the family as a whole. And I was doing a lot of overnights. So we had this situation where we were two ships passing a night. I was doing overnight care for newborns, and I would come home at 6 or 7 a.m. and go to bed. You would get up with Ollie, take him to preschool. I would sleep till 11 and then go get Ollie and then be a stay-at-home mom, which, looking back, took years off my life, not sleeping for years. But it allowed me to be a stay-at-home mom, essentially, but still bring in an income. And then when I got pregnant with Alice, I was really worried. I cannot hustle the way that I was with one kid, with two kids.
Yep.
So I was really, really worried. And then, miraculously enough, the business sort of took off. And it was 2015 when I had Alice. It's really funny. I remember we were in Disney World. We're big Disney people. And you got, I think it was $100,000 or $150,000 settlement. And we had arrived in the hotel room and you got a call or a text from someone telling you that. And it was such a huge deal. And so that was, 8.5 years ago. And now that is, I don't mean to sound inappropriate to say this, but now that's not even a big deal to you anymore.
Right.
It's oh yeah, that keeps the lights on, whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, yes, thank God, things really went well after Alice, and I was able to stay at home. We put our kids in private school in the city. Then we were able to, buy a house in the suburbs. And
in a short amount of time, I feel like we caught fire there.
Yeah.
It was sort of like floundering. And then, so Oliver was born.
I don't think it was floundering. I don't think that you can say it was floundering.
It was flat. It was sort of flat. I don't mean flat. You're totally right.
Maybe not.
Not floundering. It was.
You always worked hard. You always, took care of the family. So, definitely never floundering. No, I would say just not growing at the pace that you would want.
Because it's never. I know a lot of people listen to this call. It's never fast enough. There's never enough growth. You never have enough reviews.
Even now.
Enough cases. Enough revenue. It's never enough. And I feel like that's sort of, that's a different conversation. But at the time, it was growing. But me, better than anyone on the planet. I was just, insatiable hunger. And I was just frustrated. I was like, I can't get there. I don't know what and because I wasn't going to the networking stuff and really just doing things differently. And then Alice was born. So I moved away from that office adjacent to the bathroom. And I moved across town where the rent was like $400 more. And I was terrified. I'm like, oh my God, this rent is so much.
It was such a big improvement.
It was a big step up for me, but it was still like an interior office, but it wasn't near the bathroom, which was a bonus upside. Then a couple years later, I rented out an entire suite in that office where the rent was probably 4x. Now, if you could tell us about that day, because I think this will help you a lot of lawyers in this call, that day where I was having trouble with the whole mortgage application. I was frustrated.
I remember that day.
And I took the day off. I never took a day off. Tell us, please, what happened that day, because I think it's very helpful for the audience.
Yeah, that was true. Before that day, you would never take a day off. You would never go in late. You would never you're a very regimented person to begin with. You don't enjoy, I made him lunch yesterday, and it was this amazing, homemade lunch, and he didn't want it because it was outside of, his regimented plan of what he was eating that day. Anyway, so that gives you a little background information. So we were applying for a mortgage for this house that we are in now, and getting a mortgage is so many hoops. And then if you're a small business and you work for yourself, there's so many more hoops you have to jump through to prove what your income is. And so, and this was before you had, this is 5 years ago. So you didn't have the amount of accounting staff and people that sort of handle that stuff. You were doing it yourself.
Everything. So
you didn't have the, it was a balance sheet, what's coming in, what's going out. And and you're not an accountant. That's not your brain. Certainly it's not mine either. And so this mortgage broker is I need this, and I need it to look like this. And
I had a lot of trouble because finances.
And you couldn't. Yeah.
And then that day I was so mad. I took the day off, and I had one team member working with me. She said, "You're taking the day off?" It was a Wednesday. I said, "I'm not going in."
Yeah.
And that day changed my career, changed our family's path as it relates to this.
But backing up, Chris.
Yeah.
It's a perfect example of how you see. It was a simple fix, right?
Yeah.
It was this simple Excel spreadsheet that I ended up doing myself, and I have zero knowledge about finance. But it was it was another example of you catastrophizing and be I can't even do it. You are a big thinker, but when it comes to small little things that are super easy, you just it's you can't wrap your brain around it or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. So you took the day off and you just left work early and you met up with me and the kids. We were in the Boston Common walking around, and you were in your suit and you were just so upset and angry and wanting to scrap the entire purchase of this house.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do. You're forget it. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
The number of times you came home to our Boston apartment and be I think I'm going to get into real estate. This isn't the right career for me. And I'd be oh my God, it's going to be a long night. So
a lot of long
literally, anyway. So anyway, then you found this mastermind group in the South, right? That's right.
Yeah.
So you started, I think that day is a good, marking for when you started to sort of think outside the box, think of bigger things, think of different angles, different ways to build a business and build, culture, your favorite word. And I also think that your brain works like if you just have like a little bit of hope or a little bit of something, you can work on it, like, so that kind of gave you like, all right, this is something new and different. Like, I'm going to check this out. And then you went to, and you had never traveled for business. And
never.
So then you started to.
Yep.
And, you made a lot of connections. You got so many ideas. And then it snowballed into you like traveling all the time and joining so many groups and masterminds or whatever they're called. I don't even know the names.
Yeah, no, you're right on. Yeah.
And, and then now you're like, some of the keynote speakers at these things. So you've come full circle. And, I will say, I do think you are a very approachable and humble person, and that comes through immediately when you're talking to you. You don't put on airs. You don't, you're very authentic. And that's something hopefully people think about me too, because that's true. Totally. That you and I see eye to eye on. Being authentic, being real, and approachable. And I think people really like that about you. So I think that you're really good at what you're doing now with the, public persona that you have.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
But yeah, like I mean, I think it's been a total game changer. I think it's really
This is five. So just the audience, this is 5 years ago. I was 40, right, 41, yeah. 42 in 2019. It takes time. If you're in your late 20s, if you're in your late 50s, whatever, if you haven't hit that, that growth trajectory that you want, you got to stay in that game and fight and claw and scrap. Because sometimes some of us are late bloomers, and I'm exhibit A, classic example of a late bloomer. So this is 5 years ago. And then I decided to go for it, Rory. And then the coronavirus pandemic started. And I was like,
right.
Oh. But in many ways, the business did reset in the pandemic. And I sat in my man cave, and I rethought
where you are now.
Yes. But I rethought because everyone had more time to think.
Right.
And you and I would watch CNN and the world is shutting down. I'm a personal injury attorney. If people aren't outside, I don't have a career. People need to be outside and be active. And so this world shut down. I didn't know what was happening. So I took what I was learning in these groups and these books, and I just sort of went ballistic. Like, because I found something I was passionate about and just went haywire.
And that was the start, I think, of your new business. Like when you were, so that was 4 years ago. I mean, like we just came up on the anniversary of 2020, March of 2020. Like, I feel like your business is 4 years old because you scrapped the old business model and started this brand new idea of having way more staff and, all the things that you do. So sometimes, I mean, even today, like sometimes you can get down about something or you're not growing as fast as you want.
All the time.
And I'm always like, Chris, like businesses don't do well immediately. Like you're growing, you're going up, but it is an entirely different business that you're running now.
It is. And I hope people are writing notes because what Rory just said was super important. I think you have to be patient, right? So I talked to so many law firm owners, people that I talk to about business, about struggle. I tell the younger lawyers, you got to be patient. I'm not a patient dude, right? I'm not patient at all. And that's a good thing. And oftentimes a bad thing that actually, but these things, if you got big dreams and hopes, you got to ride it out. You got to just, be patient. It does take time. And you've always been very, I've come home like, down. Many times, because more times than not, the business owner gets kicked in the mouth, right? And there's, sometimes, that doesn't happen, but more times you're sort of getting hit in the face, but then you notch up a couple. I was like, okay, I'm higher than I was maybe a year ago and, I'm getting somewhere here.
Right. And also it also is death by comparison, which is a real problem for you.
Yes.
Like, John Morgan personally, and you went out to lunch with him at Chili's in New Hampshire, and you look at his business or whoever the other big players are in Boston. I know names, but and they've been around for a million years. And like, okay, so if you compare Earley Law Group to
Morgan,
I'm just using John Morgan because he's omnipresent.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, of course, like you are failing and not thriving and not doing well. But like whenever we, you know, we have in our living room, we have a big blue couch. So we're always like, let's talk on the blue couch. And we go, we've had several like really deep conversations. And I'm like, Chris, like, look around. Like, we have a beautiful home. We both have cars. First of all, we're both healthy. Mm-hmm. Our children are healthy.
Yep.
And that's everything. But we have this beautiful house. We have 2 cars. We send our kids, you know, our son's going to private school next year. Like they're in every club sport you can imagine. Like we are like billionaires. Like
totally.
Your business is providing all of this. Like I don't bring in any money. And so I feel like sometimes if you're comparing yourself to the big fish, you're always going to feel bad about yourself.
No, I get
so
you.
I think you need to be realistic and realize like, you know, how far you've come and realize, you know, you're doing really well. Like,
no, thank you.
Things are really, but I'm just saying in general, like, I know you want more and more and more and your appetite is insatiable with growing this business, but like, I think it's important to realize like how far you've come already. You know?
No, I do think it takes a village because if I was a single dude, like this business, I'm serious. No, because if you don't know what you don't know, and I hope, you know, the listener has someone, like I said earlier, in their corner, you know, cheerleading, you know, and saying, go crush it. You know, even when you're scared to say that, go crush it, you guys. Even though you may be feeling like, oh my God, that $5,000 call, you know, that could pay a lot of bills. But that $5,000 call to that coach could yield incredible dividends, life changing.
And it has.
Like it has. So I think, you know, Rory, you know, is really dropping a lot here. There's a lot to unpack. No, but really. But, you know, I would encourage, you know, again, patience is important. The John Morgan lunch was a result of persistence. I encouraged the audience, you got to persist. You know, it took a lot to get John Morgan to lunch. He gave me 2 hours, almost 3 hours of his time. There was no one in this Chili's. It was just me and him. And he gave me such confidence because I got him to that table and he started dispensing knowledge. So that's a moment in time where professionally, my family benefited because my eyes were open to like, holy smokes, there's so much potential, right? But if I'm just focused, Rory, and like, oh, John Morgan is, you know, killing me, you know, it's crushing it. I'm not John Morgan. Like, that's not going to help me and my family out. I'm just worried about Chris Earley and the Earleys. When you just focus, so I know Lori said it all the time. They're looking out the window, the other law firms. Oh, I see that big settlement. You have to just like look down at what you're doing.
It's easier said than done. You still look at big settlements
all the time, but it helps to always, you know. But then I'll remind myself, I want to share something else because Rory, you know, we're being candid, we're being really vulnerable and open. Rory talked about me catastrophizing. About a year into the pandemic, I was just like, I think I was shaving. I realized I think I made a mistake on a case. I thought I'm going to get sued. And I got so nervous because, again, I'm a warrior. The sky is falling. This is only a few years ago, right? But I'm going to share something that has changed my life. And Rory, you know about this. I got so nervous that, you know, I go worst case scenario. Oh my God, I'm going to lose my license. I'm going to lose my house. Like I potentially made a mistake, a very small thing, right? Which is actually nothing in hindsight. It's never anything. It's never anything significant. I was like, okay, Chris, like you need help. So what I started doing, I started meditating. And I encourage the audience, just, you don't have to meditate, yoga, walk, like something to like put a pin in it, in your stress. Meditation has changed my life. And I believe it's changed our marriage because I'm not as like on edge. Like I'm still Chris Earley and I've got all my flaws and I know you know him really well.
Yeah, I'm biting my tongue pretty hard, but yeah, keep going.
But like you got to work on your mental health as a stressed out lawyer or else it ain't going to work out well for you. So, you know, God willing, have a nice, long, prosperous career, you know, moving forward. And that hopefully we haven't even got started yet. But like meditation has really grounded me. I encourage you, the attorney who is stressed and building and scaling a law firm, even if you're not scaling, growing, you know, if you're an attorney, whoever you are, if you're really stressed, you got to find an outlet. For me, I found my space, which is meditation. So Rory doesn't have a spouse that's coming in like, you don't see me checking email at night, calling clients. And that's another thing I want to talk to you about is I'm trying to get better at when I walk in the door, I got to take that work hat off. Cause like you guys don't care. You guys care about my office, but you don't really care. You just care about me as a person, as a dad, as a husband, walking in that door. and being someone who is someone they can count on to not be on edge all the time.
But you also need a partner or whomever is your person to be the person to hold the mirror in front of your face.
Yeah.
Because I've done that with you a lot. Like,
yeah.
like, I mean, even recently as like last week, I'd be like, you know, check that shit at the door. Like,
Yeah.
we don't care.
No, you don't care. Totally. And I get that.
The intake problem or whatever it is.
Yeah.
We care about, like, we're going to baseball, we're eating dinner, we want to, you know, do homework. Like, you have to figure out how not to bring that in. And you do sometimes. And
Yeah.
the
It's
funniest thing is, if we're keeping this a humorous podcast, is like, you think you're good at masking it, but it's like, you're absolutely pathetic at that.
Oh,
and like,
man.
I'm like, check your attitude. Like change, like, take a walk. Take a lap and then come back in.
Truly.
Because, you know, obviously, if you don't do that stuff, then resentment builds. And resentment still builds. Like, you know, but I do think it's important for, and vice versa, you know, to be like, you know, check yourself. Like, you know, stop. Like, you're home now. Like, enough with that. Because it can bleed into the weekend and it can really change, like, the dynamic of the house.
Oh, because
and that's something we work on, like, as people that grew up in alcoholic homes, and, you know, reading the room and, like, walking into a room and being like, okay, what's the temperature of this room? Like, who's mad? Who's inebriated? Who's, like, I don't want that in my house. I don't want my kids to ever feel like that.
Nope.
You know, like you said, we did a podcast recently for a board that I'm on in town. And we live a boring life. Like, the kids get the same. Like, I'm always here. You know, there's no crazy surprises. And that's sort of, like, not really what we had growing up. So we're, you know, not to get too deep, but we're, you know, breaking the cycle, changing the narrative for our children. And I said this in the podcast, is that I really believe that generational wealth is, and this is not my, my words, but it said something like, generational wealth is like happiness and joy and like good mental health and that sort of stuff, not money. So anyway, I went off topic again because that's what I do. So you can circle it back.
Well, that's okay. Hey, that's important stuff. So a couple, you know, lessons in there again for that young, middle-aged, or even elderly lawyer. You know, this hits on all levels with attorneys. We talked about mental health just a little while ago, right?
Huge.
You got to do time management. So I wake up 3:30, 4 in the morning, you know, first train, but I do that not to be, not because
annoying.
Not because like I love it, but wake up in the middle of the night, but because I get home at 5 o'clock, and I talk about this on LinkedIn. I share, because like there's days the weather's getting nicer here. It's May now. I'll pull into my driveway. My son yells out the front door, "Hey, Dad, you want to play catch?"
Immediately.
Now, if I'm on my email or I'm talking to an attorney and I'm all stressed out, like, what is that showing him? He's going to absorb that. There's a good chance he'll be like that when he's my age. So I'm like, hell yeah, where's my glove?
Right.
And I'm no perfect parent. I got a whole lot of work to do. But you got to leave the work at the office or in the car, in the train. But you got to get the time management straight. I'm a student. I'm trying to get it straight myself, but I'm learning. You have to really take control of your time, because you have that partner. Maybe you even have kids as well at home that are waiting for you. And a lot of lawyers, Rory, I know, you know, they don't get home till like 9 o'clock.
No, most.
And like, I'm coaching baseball. I almost said no to coaching baseball this season because I got so many, you know, irons in the fire right now. And this is where a supportive partner helps. You were like, no, you should coach baseball again. And I'm sponsoring baseball, and I'm having the time of my life doing it. But I'm able to sometimes get a 3 o'clock train because the stuff gets done. I would encourage you at the office, like, get off of email, cut the chit chat, just like get it done, get home as quickly as you can, and work as little as you can, while ideally making as much money as you can, because that furthers your family, right?
Yeah, and I feel like it's easier said than done. You know what I mean?
I know it.
So it's easy for you to say that. Like, you are an extremely regimented person. We are the opposite. and I hate living the way that you live. Like you eat the same thing every day. You get up at the same time. Like even on the weekends, you're up at 4, and so I mean, it's dedication, but I feel like you are just that's the way your brain works. I need variety. I want to wake up and be like, all right, so what are we going to do today?
Oh, right. 100%.
It almost sounds a little privileged when you say like, get off that email. And like many people can't. So
but they can.
But I do think.
But they can though. Cause what I'm doing is not special. All I'm saying, no, but you don't have to wake up at 4 a.m, but you can go, cause I know this about lawyers, like we were on email too much, we're wasting time. And that is a pain point. Even if you don't have to wake up at 4 a.m, but do what you got to do so your family doesn't feel the brunt of your dedication to your practice,
right?
Whatever that takes, right? You got to be kind of militant, and like I'm nothing special here. I'm just I'm stealing ideas that have been taught to me and weaving it. It's like, oh, this stuff actually works,
right?
Because Rory, before the pandemic, like I would, if things didn't change, been that guy. I'd be stuck at the office. And now, I have a lot of work to do, but I can see there's a better way to do it. You don't I'm encouraging the audience. You don't have to be miserable and stressed out and, hair's on fire, stress. Like there's a better way. And what we're sharing may not work for you, but I encourage you find whatever it is that works for you. Because we only get one, ride on this bus. And so we want to, really milk it for all it's worth. And our family depends on that, because a lot of people on this call are parents, right? Mothers and fathers. You just mentioned recently that, we're blessed because our son got into a private school. Now I have to level up and figure, okay, like the business expenses, they rise because we're scaling this business very aggressively. Now it's like, but those things, Rory, help me. Because now it's like, okay, now I got to do private tuition. Now I got to what else? I got to figure this out even more. Like I got to get better at this.
Right.
So you always have to sort of level up. That's why I work with 4 different coaches, like a coach, helping you in these different facets. So I'd encourage, again, another thing to the audience, get a coach, have at least one coach who will be your sounding board.
No, that's been absolutely game changer for you. In particular, one of your coaches, Cindy, I feel like who's going to be on your podcast at some point. Like I feel like she's a coach / therapist / like motherly figure for you. Like I love her. And I've just said hello to her on a Zoom one time. I don't know her at all. However, she grounds you. She gives you great advice. And I feel like when you get really stressed out, I'm like, when's your call with Cindy? Because like you need to be talked off the ledge. And then she does. So like I owe her a lot. I hope she watches this. Thank you, Cindy.
It's been wonderful.
Yeah.
You got to find that fit with your coach.
Right.
Whether it's a physical coach, business coach, life coach, I don't care what kind of coach. Like you got to be in sync with that person. That's where the magic happens. Like if that's where great things. They say Michael Jordan, LeBron James, like 10, 15 coaches, because like one coach does this and one coach, and that's why. I mean, that's
you comparing yourself to the
definitely. No, but all seriousness, like now I have the opportunity to be a coach, and that's very humbling and flattering. Right. I think it's very sobering to have attorneys reach out, right? And
absolutely,
because I know I'm reaching out.
You also deserve it. You've worked hard. You have a lot of knowledge that you can share. So it is humbling, but it's also, well deserved.
Well, thank you. But I do believe there's nothing special about this stuff. Like you and I, we ask for things, right? Mm-hmm. And we've discovered that the world will generally say yes. Like if you keep asking and having real clear vision on what you're doing and what you want, you're probably going to get that. Now, what's most important about this podcast today is like our vision isn't about the early law group injury lawyers. It's not about meditation. It's not about time management. It's about our kids and providing a future that is limitless. So that's how we're doing the private school. This business is to further our personal ambitions, right? As parents, as a couple, as for our kids. So I just encourage, I talk about this on stage, on this podcast constantly. The business can't run you. You must manipulate the business structure so that it serves you and your family's life. at the highest possible level.
This house is more important than Earley Law Group. What happens inside these four walls is more important. And I need to remind you of that sometimes, but it's true. Like this business could fail and you start another business, painting houses, whatever.
Which I've done that, by the way. But
this family, oh my God. Just like, he thinks he's an expert at everything, and it's very funny. I feel like that is really important to remember. Like, businesses can come and go and fail and succeed, but this family is the most important thing.
Oh, there's no question. Once you have that clarity, everything falls into line. So I know what time I want to leave work. So work's serving me, and if you're fortunate to have team members working, not for you, but team members working with you, you better take care of them and show them love, care, and concern.
And you do.
And I'm obsessed because they are allowing me to leave at 4, to be on the baseball field, by 5 or 6, to have weekends free of I don't work on weekends. Like, I'll work when you guys aren't when you guys
when we're sleeping
quite awake. Yeah. But like, that's my biggest thing I've learned is like the business should serve you. You should not serve the business as an attorney. And I feel like a lot of us sort of like conflate that and mix that up. That's where we get into trouble. That's where divorce happens. That's where unhappy children, are being raised because dad or mom is like totally checked out on the weekends. And
that's not the case here.
But that can't. I feel strongly that doesn't have to be the case for anyone. If you get so Rory and I are super dialed in what we're trying to do, what we're not trying to do, because we have an experience at a younger age in terms of what we don't want to happen for our kids. And so we're laser targeted on that. Rory does a lot of work in the community. I don't do nearly enough. And I need to do more, volunteer work, because you get so much out of that.
But I also do want to say a big, giant caveat that, like, a lot of this clarity comes with age. Like, you were not like this at 30, 35. Like, I'm 46. You're 57.
Feel it.
Like, it's just, I'm feeling this so much now in my mid 40s. Like, it just becomes so much clearer, your life path, and you don't care. You focus on the things that are important, and that's all right. Like, my neighbor hates me down the street. Like, I don't care. Like, let her. Like, Mel Robbins, my favorite thing, and I say this all the time, you're probably sick of hearing it, is like the whole let them theory. Like, let them do what they want, and you focus on what you're doing. And I think that's an amazing theory. And look it up. Look up Mel Robbins' let them theory. And just like focus on your lane and what you're doing with your family and your business, and like, don't look at, don't focus on anything else. And that's it. And it's easier when you get older. It just is. And I hate to say that, and I sound like my mother 20 years ago, but like, I do think it just comes with age. So like, you will be more comfortable in your own skin, and you will be happier as you age, because it just, you appreciate things so much more. So like, hang in there. If you're young and struggling, like, it gets so much better. I really think it does. Like, if you're in the depths of like having toddlers and not sleeping or whatever, growing the business, like, it really does get better. And, I think that's some good life advice, keep going, keep focusing on your path, and things work out. They really do. And keep a positive attitude. Like, I can definitely be a negative Nelly, but I try to be positive.
No, you're quite positive. Yeah.
And I think it's impacted you because you're.
Well, if you weren't so positive, I don't think we could have had the success with the business or the family if you weren't a positive person. Because then we had 2 negative people. It wouldn't be a good situation here,
Yeah, but I wouldn't call you a negative person.
I'm not. But
skeptical.
But lawyers, I'm not negative. I wouldn't. The business wouldn't have grown if I was negative. No, I'm very positive. But as an attorney, I've got that what's going to go wrong mentality. Plus, when I was younger, you marry that with a catastrophist thinking. That's a recipe for disaster. That's like, because a license to practice law can be sometimes licensed to be an asshole. And so for a long time.
And we should wrap up soon because people are sick of listening to us talk about ourselves. But what I will say is, remember that thing I told you about in Fried Green Tomatoes, this movie? This woman, like, you worry less as you get older because you're like, whatever, like, I'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, Fried Green Tomatoes, she drove her car and someone took the Kathy Bates, someone took her space, and there were two young, like 20-year-old girls, so like, we're younger and faster. And then she slammed her car. This is apropos because you're a personal injury attorney. Slammed her car into their little like Volkswagen Bug and said, "I'm older and I have more insurance." And it was just so, it was like, you're like, whatever, like things will work out. I've been through so many battles in my life, like things will be okay. And that's something that comes with age. I didn't think that at 34.
Yeah, I know.
You would come home and be upset about money at 34 and I'd be like, okay, so like we'll move in with my parents, like I will get a job at Starbucks. Like I would follow along with your catastrophizing thinking and like make a backup plan in my head. Now 2024, you still come home and you're like, we have 40 cases. We need more than this. And I'm like, okay, do you want lasagna for dinner? Like what? You know, like
it's going to be okay.
It's noise. I'm just like, I don't even care anymore. I don't even think about it. I don't worry about it. And it's certainly, again, that's privilege. We're a little bit more established. We're not going to like be homeless if we have a bad couple of months.
Right.
But I don't know. Does that make any sense? I feel like maybe I'm not even making sense.
Privilege, neither of us have privilege. We've created privilege.
Correct.
For our kids. Because honestly, like, you know, that's why I'm writing a memoir about truly dark stuff. You know,
always doing the book plug.
no, I'm talking to my book coach in like 5 hours. You know,
good.
If you have time, lawyer on this call, write your book. It takes time, but like write your book, get your story out there. I'm a big proponent of that. But no, Rory and I don't come from, you know, there's no privilege necessarily.
No.
Creating that.
I wish there was.
Through design, through design, intention, and like, no, we don't have any of this figured out, but we have a burning desire, you know, to do something pretty special together. I think we're doing a really nice job, but this is hard stuff.
But I will say your parents, my parents were hard workers, and they instilled this really great work ethic in us.
Absolutely.
And which has served us well. Like we could, you know, I always say like, if your business failed and we had to go to work, like we could snap our fingers and get a job and like be really good at it because we are really hard workers.
Yeah.
And we are instilling that in our children because I think it's a really important thing. Like both children, like if Chris becomes $1 billion law firm and puts John Morgan out of business, like our children will still be working at 15, like bussing tables or whatever they want to do because it's so important to work and like have that work ethic instilled at a young age.
Yeah.
It's important.
There's no question. You know, we keep talking about John Morgan. He wrote a book, You Can't Teach Hungry. And I think that's so freaking true. I think you and I are really hungry for success, not money success, but like life success for our children. So they generationally, you know, they're raising healthy kids and they just have a little bit easier.
Yeah.
You know, and that's really what this is about, like what we're doing. That's why we're doing all this stuff. So I'd like to ask every guest at the end of the show a couple of questions. What's your greatest success in life so far?
I mean, cliche of all cliches, but my children, my whole life is about them. And I am so incredibly proud of them every single day. And my greatest accomplishment in life.
That's awesome. All right, Rory, thank you so much for coming on the show.
One question? I thought you had a list of questions for me.
Well, fine. Okay, fine. You want it? Here you go. What keeps you up at night?
Chris Earley. I'm kidding. What keeps me up at night is just worrying about my children. I think, and as with any mother, you get up and you worry about little stupid things that keep you up, and then you wake up in the morning. You're like, it's fine. Everything's fine. The sun came up. It's fine. So, just typical mom stuff.
All right. I think I know the answer. What motivates you?
I mean, I wish I had more creative answers, but
no, just honest. Yeah.
I mean, certainly my children. But you know, I'll expand on that. Like it's really important to me to be a good person, and not just like, oh, people think Rory's a good person, but like to genuinely do good, be a good person, give back, but like for real, like have really strong character and just do good in the world. That certainly motivates me.
So just wrapping up, you volunteer a ton.
Yeah.
Because you're a giver. Like, what do you get out No, I'm serious. Like, what do you get out of volunteering? Like, what does it do for you when you do it? Like, why do you do it? 'Cause you do a lot.
I do. Well, the number one answer is because I can. Like, I'm obviously extremely lucky that I stay home. I don't have to work a 9 to 5 job. And I think it's super important to give back. And I work with a lot of senior citizens in our town. I work at the senior center. I drive the little van to bring them to their errands or grocery shopping. And then I also recently was asked to be a volunteer coordinator, which is a volunteer position, for a local group in our town called Hingham Link that connects volunteers like me with seniors that need help, whether it's a ride to an appointment or shoveling their walkway or whatever. I don't know how to describe it, but I really like to do for other people. I love to give presents. I love to give my time. Like, that's my love language, even though I hate that phrase, is giving. And I do get a lot out of it. And I mean, people are so grateful. I took a couple to Whole Foods this week, and they said, "You are a miracle in our life. Like, I can't believe that you can do this." And it was literally like 1 hour of my time. I sat in my car and scrolled TikTok, my obsession. And while they shopped, and I drove them home, and they acted like I just cured cancer. And so you just see the difference you can make in people's life. And it's like not heavy lifting. You know what I mean? Like, it's giving a little and getting a lot in return. And obviously I really, really want to be a good example for my kids, because I want them to continue that. And Ollie will certainly do that at BC High. Like, that's a huge component of their learning is being a gentleman and giving back. And so, yeah, I mean, I really like it. I really like, and then my end of life care, I'm really interested in end of life stuff, because I, watched my dad die, and I think it's really important to talk about death. And I'm getting into a whole other podcast here, but because to make it a little less scary, because we're all going to die, and talking about death makes things a little bit easier. It makes it a little bit less of the big scary thing. So it's just, I just really enjoy it. I like it, and it fills up my bucket, as Alice would say.
That's what it's about. All right, I got one more final question.
Okay.
And that's it. That is, what's one piece of advice you would give to the attorney that he or she should be mindful of as it relates to their partner and what their partner is going through as the attorney is scaling the business? Like, what maybe should be on their radar, maybe that I could have...
Advice to the partner or advice to the lawyer?
Advice to the lawyer to be mindful about the partner's perspective and just what it's like for you, that maybe they should, me too included, think about what it's like for the partner to support the business owner, the attorney, growing their career. Like, what should they be sensitive to? Well,
first of all, I think, and this is you, I'll use you as an example, like, you're so driven, and I'm sure most of the people listening to this are so driven. You're so driven that sometimes you have these blinders on, and you're just so driven towards the, goal of growing the business, etc., that, like, you forget about little things. Like, I'll use the example of last weekend. You were, I don't even know what the topic was, but you were deeply involved in a project for work, or the book or something, and you were like laser focused, right? Yeah. And I walked into a room, and you just, like, I think it was in the morning. It was really early in the morning, and I had just come down, and you just walked by me and didn't even acknowledge me. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, open your eyes. Like, I understand that you're focused, but, like, you also have a wife, you have kids, like, you have to still, like, live this life with us too. Like, it's not just like the Chris Earley train and that's all. No. So I feel like I have to knock that into your head a lot. And I do. But, like, remember the little stuff, like, buy your wife flowers, or take her out to dinner, or even just say, a nice thing, or acknowledge her when she walks into a room, Chris. That kind of stuff I think is really important, because I get that you're laser focused, and I get you, and I understand it, but I also think it's really important, because people can feel ignored and it's hard. And someone that supports you should be rewarded with, your attention, but so I would say that. And then just, sometimes, make like, when we're talking, it's always about the business. It's always about you or your book. Like, it is very, like, try to focus on the other person a lot sometimes. And it's really funny if I'm telling you a story, you like, I think this is a man thing, but you like just glaze over, and I know it completely
It's
lost
a man
you.
thing. Yeah.
Meanwhile, like I'm hearing about like the like complete like inner workings of a case, and I'm like, okay, right. And then what did she say? And then how did the judge?
Over. Yeah, I know.
So
great,
just be different.
I love it.
That's what I'd say.
Well, we've had a lot of great guests. This is the best one by far. Thank you so much. Thank you for not throwing me under the bus as much as I thought you would. Appreciate that.
Oh, I can go there. My email, if you'd like to know more about Chris, is... All
right, we're going to cut that out. All right. Thank you, Rory. Right. That's it for this episode of The Earley Show. Be sure to check out more episodes of our show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the Answering Legal YouTube channel.